Coming up, new licensing regime for small-scale mining as part of efforts to fight illegal mining. Agradaa remanded for 4 more nights in police custody as more than 30 complainants have reported her to the police. In politics, Asiedu Nketia goes official on his NDC chairmanship ambition, and we play back snippets of what former President Mahama said on the Voice of America Straight Talk Africa interview. Welcome to Graphic Online's News in Brief. We start from Accra, where as part of efforts to help fight illegal mining, the government has announced a new licensing regime for small-scale mining that places chiefs in the center of the process. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapor, announced this at a press briefing in Accra today. Mr. Jinapor said the president had issued a directive that no mining concession or license should be granted unless the paramount chief in the area, the regional minister, and the metropolitan, municipal, or district chief executive in the area were consulted.
The person who has the final say in terms of who gets a license or a concession is the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. But here we are talking about the involvement of traditional rulers, and yet they don't seem to have any active, direct, central role to play in the processes leading to the grant of concessions. And in many cases, as they told us at the National House of Chiefs, they are seated in their traditional areas only to find people with licenses to mine in their communities when they did not make any input, when they were not consulted, when they were not involved in the grant of the licenses. And yet, we are asking them to help us fight illegal small-scale mining. So the president is directed that henceforth, no mining concession or license should be granted unless the paramount chief of that particular jurisdiction is formally consulted, on record, is formally consulted, so that his views and input will be brought to bear. So is it that no mining concession should be granted until and unless the regional minister or the metropolitan, municipal, or district chief executive is formally consulted. So the processes that the Minerals Commission goes through to eventually make a recommendation to me for the grant of a license is been altered dramatically.
And from mining, we go to the court where more than 30 people have so far filed complaints against the founder of the Heavyweight Champion International Ministry at Wager in Accra. Patricia Asiedu, aka Nana Agradaa, has been accused of an alleged money doubling scam. She has again been remanded in police custody for 4 more nights. When she appeared in court today, the prosecution said the investigative team was taking more statements from victims. The court therefore remanded her to reappear on Monday. Nana Agradaa has pleaded not guilty of 1 count of charlatanic advertisement and 6 counts of defrauding by false pretense. She was first arraigned last Monday and was remanded to appear today. In court today, her counsel pleaded for bail, but that was denied. The court said the decision was based on public interest and fears that the complainants were vulnerable and could be paid off by Nana Agradaa if granted bail. I am afraid that the accused, when granted bail, could pay them off, the judge said. And in politics, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, the General Secretary of the opposition National Democratic Congress, has confirmed and declared his interest in the national chairman position of the party. In a radio and television interview on Accra FM and CTV today, Mr. Asiedu Nketia, who had been linked to nursing an interest in the position, but never officially confirmed it anytime he was asked about it, decided to go open about it today.
Yeah, says either say, Ufri General Secretary portfolio, Ober retire, and now say Ober for chairmanship, but don't declare say Ober Koseniakan, and we want you to declare here.
And there was another story.
Oh, question no, yeah, with more clarity than we can. The NTR.
You see, bloggers now ready. To carry the tune.
Yes, my intentions. We nomination.
Wow.
For the chairmanship position.
Yeah. So.
And before we go, Former President John Dramani Mahama yesterday granted an interview to Voice of America on the Straight Talk Africa program. He spoke about a number of issues, including the IMF program Ghana is working on, constitutional review, and whether or not he will contest to lead the NDC again.
Well, it's good to keep your opponent guessing. And so even if I'm not running, I'm not going to say I'm not running. So a decision will be taken early next year in the first quarter. That's when we hold our party's primaries for the presidential candidacy. And we'll see. You know, people think about the IMF in the old sense of what it was. The IMF has gone through a lot of reform. They're not going to come and tell you to cut social spending. They're going to ask you to bring a program. Your revenues are much lower than your expenditure. How are you going to bring it in sync? And you have to tell them where you can cut. And so you are going to cut. They are not going to cut. You get my point? And so if you're spending too much money on something, you have to decide whether you think that is critical expenditure that you want to keep. And you agree with them, we're going to bring the deficit year on year down, the budget deficit down to, let's say, 6%. I'm just assuming that. What do you need to cut to attain 6% budget deficit? That's the program you have to send to the IMF. My party has withdrawn from the Inter-Party Advisory Committee because this current Electoral Commission said that body is only advisory and they don't need to take the advice of that body. And before, we used to reach consensus in the Inter-Party Advisory Committee. We took decisions by consensus. Now what they've done is resurrect so many small parties, and then as soon as anything comes for discussion, they quickly say, let's vote. And then they have all these parties on the side of the commission and the ruling party, and they vote by majority and say, look, the decision is taken. And so we saw that we're wasting our time in the IPAC.
Thank you for watching. For more news, please visit our website, graphic.com.gh, or follow us on Facebook at Daily Graphic and on YouTube and Twitter at GraphicGH. I am Enoch Dafa Frimpong.
Subscribe now.